Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says many signs indicate that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed in coordinated strikes by the US and Israel on Iran. Netanyahu also said the high security compound of the Ayatollah was completely destroyed and that Israel will continue to hit thousands of targets of the Iranian regime in the coming days. Earlier, the Foreign Minister said Khamenei was still alive, quote, "as far as I know." And joining us now is DW Correspondent Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. Tania, please tell us more about Netanyahu's statement.
Yeah, I think that was the main message in this statement tonight to the Israeli public, that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that basically Israel destroyed the compound of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and that he was no more, in his words, and that he was killed in these opening strikes in the early morning. We understand from military officials that Israel, and in this coordinated attacks together with the United States, choose to attack around the morning hours in daylight, actually, which is kind of unusual because of gatherings of some of the leaders. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that also senior commanders and senior officials of Iran's nuclear program were also, according to him, killed. Now, however, I have to stress he didn't present any evidence for this assessment, and we don't know for sure at this point whether Khamenei was indeed killed. Netanyahu also said, called again on the people in Iran that this is a moment, to take, to basically that they will create the conditions for the Iranian people to free themselves, as he said, from the dictatorship.
Tania, you've been out and about speaking to people today. How have people in Israel reacted to these strikes?
Well, I mean, people have been in and out of the bomb shelters across Israel. And of course, also we're looking at the region, almost the same for those where are shelters all day, and that at a quite frequent pace. You get these alerts on your phone, and then the home front command orders people to stay in shelters, and that has been happening for all day, and it's actually also continuing. However, we have to say, the missile retaliation by Iran with missiles in Jordan has been somewhat, at the moment at least, limited in scope. There have been no heavy casualties so far in Israel, mainly minor injuries from people, running to the shelter. Some impact reported, also some injuries maybe from shrapnel. It appears at this point that the defense shield is, holding, but again, the larger the barrages that there are, and we don't know what is there to come, there's always the chance that those ballistic missiles are going through. And we also heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu basically telling Israelis to brace themselves, that this is a longer campaign, that this is not over in a day or two, and that this would be going on as long as needed. And I think this is also a message that others here also in the region will hear, because Iran also retaliated to other countries here in the region.
Thanks a lot, Tania. We've been speaking with DW correspondent Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. I can welcome Madawi Al-Rasheed now, a visiting professor at the Middle East Centre of the London School of Economics and Political Science. Welcome to DW. I wanted to ask you first up about this statement from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is saying that many signs indicate that Iran's supreme leader has been killed. Of course, this is unconfirmed yet. We don't know if he is in fact dead. But I wanted to ask you, if it is confirmed, what are the implications? What could the implications be, both on the regime and on the Iranian people?
I think it's very difficult to assess this statement. We, from previous experiences when specific individuals within Iran were targeted, such as, for example, when Qasemi was targeted by a missile and he was responsible for maintaining relations with many Arab allies of Iran, it is very easy to replace them. But somebody who has the same status as Khamenei will become a blow to Iran. But I think the institutions that the Iranians have will probably survive at least for some time, as they are probably capable of producing yet another leader very quickly who would replace him and take control of government and of responses to what's happening on the ground.
So are you saying basically that the Iran regime is built to withstand attacks on its leadership, that it's resilient?
Well, absolutely. They've created many institutions, military, political, and leadership, in order to absorb any shocks. And let's not forget, this is a regime that has been strengthening itself for the last 47 years. It's not just one leader who's in control of a vast country with a vast population and resources. It's not Venezuela or Maduro. It is not Iraq even in the 1990s. It is a regime that has learned a lesson. It has lived in an environment, in a region where probably its enemies are more than its friends. The previous speaker mentioned Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Hashd in Iraq, respectively in Lebanon, in Yemen, and in Iraq. But these forces have been weakened, especially Hezbollah and the Houthis. Yeah, they have yet to respond, and I doubt whether they're going to respond in a military way. But Iran is capable, with very limited weapons, I think, to do two things. The first one is to suppress any uprising inside Iran, because you don't need ballistic missiles to fight a rebellion or a kind of uprising. The second thing, they are capable of doing what they exactly did since today, and that is, with limited weapons, target American interests and Gulf countries that host military bases. We have seen already that Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE, Qatar also, had been targeted, and they haven't been targeted by ballistic missiles. And any military expert would tell you that a drone can reach this region and create a lot of chaos, suspend civilian aviation, as what has happened since this morning, and bring the region, which has always been thought of as an island of stability in a turbulent Arab or Middle Eastern world. We find that Dubai, that prides itself on being a global hub for business and global capitalism, had been targeted by a missile, probably not the type of missiles that is being negotiated with the United States. So in a way, Iran has its own tentacles, and it's capable of destabilizing many countries that are regarded as hosting hostile forces, whether they are Israeli or American.
As you say, there has been, we've been seeing Iran's retaliation across Gulf countries. Some of these countries warned or said to the US that they didn't want the US to strike Iran. How do you think these countries are going to respond now?
Well, it is actually the joke of the time when several Gulf leaders, for example, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates, tried to propagate the idea that they convinced Trump of not attacking Iran because this is going to stabilize the Gulf. But the Trump administration doesn't really listen to those leaders. leaders. It listens to Netanyahu. And this is exactly what's happening now. Iran hasn't threatened American interests. It has threatened Israel, and it has hit Israel. And therefore, Trump is listening to Netanyahu rather than to Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed, and the rest of the Gulf leaders. They really don't count when in the grand scheme of American alliance with Israel. Trump has actually proven that he is an ally of Netanyahu, and he supports the interest of Israel, not the interest of the Gulf countries. If he did listen to them, we would not have seen the Americans and the Israelis escalate this war and threaten to drag not only the Gulf, but also Europe. Europe is still on the agenda of being involved to defend its interests, but they haven't even finished with one war in the Ukraine in order to jump and move to the Middle East and the Gulf region. So what we're going to see now, I think, the Americans, Trump and Netanyahu, haven't learned from the lessons of Iraq. Iraq in 1991 was destroyed militarily, and the West encouraged an uprising in southern Iraq. But at the last minute, the West decided that they have achieved their goal, and they left those Iraqi people to die at the hands of Saddam Hussein. And it took several years until 2003 when the Americans and some allies in the West decided that they will go and invade Iraq and put troops on the ground. But that lasted another 10 years of civil war. So we are in a messy region with messy superpower leadership that has put all its eggs in one basket, and that is the basket of Israel.
Thank you so much for your time. We've been speaking with Madawi Al-Rasheed from the London School of Economics and Political Science.
Thank you.